Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to part two from yesterday's Sunday stream regarding Google and diversity, DEI 2.0, targeted universalism. We got about halfway through the talk in the last episode, and we still hadn't heard about targeted universalism, but we did hear a whole lot of contradictory and hypocritical stuff from our speakers regarding how to assess people, how not to assess people, and impact. Boy, oh boy, did we hear impact. A lot of impact. So I'm hoping that with this latter portion of the presentation, we'll finally get to the meat of it. What does DEI 2.0 look like going forward? And what is targeted universalism as relates to that? But before I get to that, who's joining me this afternoon on this Labor Day, at least in the States? Noah Asensio, good afternoon. Mike R., Kiever Dam, Mike Savage. Who else is here as chat jumps on me? Advocatus Diaboli, Jaeger Pony, Robert Pincus, Brittany Holland, One Ton Hammer, Angelverse, and is that ever? Bruno Montiero. Good afternoon. And Mike R., if I didn't already say hello, hello. There's so many mics, Mike R., Mike Savage, Chicago Mike. I'd like to be like Mike. I want to be like Mike. Let's see. Did I already say Dina B? Dina B, hello. Not much more of a preamble. If you're curious as to what's going on here, the Sunday stream was, yesterday on Sunday. And part one, this is a Google keynote speech presentation panel discussion on what DEI is going to look like moving forward. I don't know when it was filmed. I don't know that they've said exactly. They've mentioned events in the past, but that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. It was posted just the other day. So I think it's relatively new, but either way, the phrase that pays is targeted universalism. I don't know what it means. I've done a little, spelling bee deconstruction previously. But that's what I'm waiting for. We're now 23 minutes and 55 seconds into a 46-minute presentation. And so I'll continue here in a moment. Before I get to there, at the top of the chat box, everybody take a look at the fundraisers, thankfully provided by Kiever Dam for our friends Joshua, Maddie, and Lisa. And in Joshua's case, he needs some help with some unfortunate financial pitfalls he's run into. In Maddie's case, she's trying to pay for the deductibles regarding her cancer treatment. So please take a look at that one for sure. And Lisa and her boyfriend need some help paying for medical bills for their puppy. So you take a look at those. If you can donate, please do so. If you can't donate, that's fine. But if you can share those out on social media, that would be appreciated. A few more hellos and then we'll get into it. Bridget. Good afternoon. Not the father, BG. You're not the father. And anybody else I see? Thomas Cleaver. Good afternoon. All right, so let's begin with part two. I think we were just getting off of someone else's statement. I'm going to back up just a couple of seconds just to make sure. Yeah, we're ending with him and moving on to the next portion.
Leadership role will be entrepreneurs in terms of making a world where we all belong.
Right, belong. That's what it was, where we all belong. Our middle speaker was emphasizing that quite a bit. What does belong mean? I don't know. He used it in such an abstract and amorphous way. It could mean anything. And yet, while he's talking about everyone belongs, he kept citing certain demographics as being, I don't know, sore losers in the procreation game. And they'll have to come to terms with that. And also, we need to fund people on the basis of what they look like. Yeah, it was something.
That gives me so much hope. I don't know about all of you, but certainly inspirational and aspirational to lean into that. In recent years, belonging has become of greater importance and focus of the work we do at Google. Thank you so much for your partnership.
Belonging. How do you engineer belonging? How do you make someone feel like they belong? And if you say that your intention is to make people feel like they belong, does that, and I'm not asking rhetorically, I'm really asking, sincerely, does that take away the sincerity of it? I don't know.
And it's become increasingly so at other companies where we're seeing some companies replacing belonging or replacing inclusion with belonging in the DEI equation.
No, I haven't seen that. I've seen D.E.I.B. They've just added belonging to the litany of words that go after diversity. Replacing? Okay, well, let's say that they do. Let's say they replace the word inclusion with belonging. What is that? What does that do? What does the removal of that magic word, what effect does that have?
And at Google, belonging isn't just about making sure that people are included, but it's ensuring that they really belong, that they actually feel that they belong, and that's what they're experiencing.
Now, okay, quick rule about words and definitions. You cannot use the word you are defining in its own definition. All right, so when you say belonging, what do you mean? What does that look like? You're talking about it in a workplace environment. You're talking about it in the context of running a business. Okay, that has to have a tangible, observable result. What are you talking about? All these high-minded abstracts, but no definition, which is the hallmark of DEI oftentimes, but all the same.
And I'd love to hear from both of you about, like, how do you think about belonging? And you started to share that a little bit, John, but if you could go a little bit deeper, and then Juan, let's start with you and then go to John.
Yeah, John had enough to talk about already. Give the other guy a chance.
Yeah, so just to reflect a little bit on Google, so I've been at Google for 5 years.
Okay.
And at Google, one of the core sort of principles that we have is psychological safety with teams. So this is kind of a long-standing concept.
Wait. One of the long-standing principles at Google is psychological safety in teams. Okay.
I think we did research a while back around how do teams perform and what teams were most innovative or most productive.
I just picked the overlay that I did because I didn't want to have it confused with the actual Sunday stream series, as if that really matters. But I guess it's just accidentally appropriate. I picked my psychological couch overlay.
And trying to determine what were the characteristics that were common in those teams that were most innovative. And the one thing that kept coming up again and again and again
is, okay, it's either belonging or diversity.
Was psychological safety.
Psychological safety. Okay.
In other words, the team members felt that their team had their back, that they could make mistakes, and those mistakes weren't going to be held against them.
Oh, shouldn't that come about naturally in the course of it? How do you engineer that? How do you engineer psychological safety? A team can gel over a mistake, over an argument, right? If you tell people to remove any possible negative consequences or whatever, or try to force them to not be frustrated or force them not to make a snide remark or something, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, teams should be terrible to each other or something, but, teamwork, leadership, establishing working relationships, if you're manufacturing those from the top down, I don't know. Does that make a lot of sense? Maybe in a business context, maybe in Google's context, a corporate context. I don't know.
That it was okay to take risks, and there was a sense where you were safe. So first things first, like psych safety for teams.
Yes, we want to create a safe space. Yeah, actually, that's a phrase I don't hear very often anymore. Once in a while, but not nearly as much as I did in earlier years.
I think that the next thing I think we've learned, especially after 2020 and 2021, when we were literally apart for 2 years where physically couldn't be together.
Uh-huh.
We also had quite a bit of community, I would say, at Google without realizing it, with the micro kitchens and like the volleyball courts and all these things we do so that Googlers can spend time together.
Micro kitchens and volleyball courts. Okay.
And we lost that overnight.
Uh-huh.
So as having which, and it was a big challenge for leaders like us, how do we keep that going?
Yes. How do we maintain a sense of codependence among coworkers? I know. The most grim interpretation of that. It's like, I'm having separation anxiety. I can't work by myself. Like, what do you do
when we can't be physically together?
Uh-huh.
We also had a lot of people join that never got an opportunity to be in with their teams physically together, and they were onboarding into an organization with a laptop, and that was it. Like it, and
yeah, that's what it's called, a job. I guess I just come from a very, very ancient and archaic time where I went to an office, I sat down in front of a computer for several hours and did my work, and then I went home. I wasn't there to lay around in beanbags or have micro kitchen experiences or play volleyball. I was there to do a job and go home. And maybe that's what allowed me to adapt to remote working so easily, because functionally speaking, it was no different, save for the fact that I wasn't going to an office to sit down at a computer. I was just at my apartment sitting down at a computer. So I don't know.
And so they had a very different experience. They didn't quite feel like they belonged. So between psych safety and community, I think that's the combination, at least what we strive for. I'm not saying we're there or perfect, but that's what we try to do. That's how I think about how we create belonging when you have both of those things.
Again, maybe I'm just cold-hearted or something. I've never needed to feel like I belonged. I never needed to have somebody, pat me on the head and make me feel like a good boy or something. I came to my job. I did my job. I got paid. If I had to work on a project with somebody, I worked on a project with somebody. And we had meetings. We have meetings in my company once a week. And everybody has to report on what have you been working on, what have you completed, what's a long-term project, etc., all that stuff. Everybody gives their report. Everybody gets their turn. There's no judgment in it because we all have to do it. And some of us have intertwined interests or projects where we need to work with each other on. Some of us have such slotted roles in the company that we're kind of islands unto ourselves, but sometimes there's crossover. I suppose maybe I just grew up work-wise in a different kind of environment and way of thinking. One that's seemingly far more independent and not needing other people to, I don't know, lift me up or cheer me up or have to have a safe space. It's like I go to work, I know what my job is, I do my job, I go home.
No, I appreciate how you drew that out, and and what both of you touched on. And, there's a real need to solve for groups that are situated apart from the majority. And you were talking about that, John, with, othering. I think it really helps us to start taking a look at what othering means. And so could you talk a little bit more about othering, and what's the role of othering and belonging?
What's the role of othering and belonging? Forming closer relationships with those people that you feel close to and finding a common enemy in some way, shape, or form. That's what it is. That's the long and the short. And othering doesn't necessarily have to mean something violent. It just means that person doesn't belong, and the rest of us can strengthen our ties together in agreement that that other person doesn't belong. For whatever reason. I mean, it could be anything. It could be an attitude, could be a physical feature, could be political philosophy, whatever. That's all it is. It helps everybody feel like they're closer to someone else who shares their same thinking or shares a similar lifestyle or whatever else. That's it. It's what people have been doing forever. But that's my off-the-cuff definition. What does our speaker have to say?
So, I said earlier about how, again, back in the 80s and 90s, we were talking about tolerance. And now that I'm sure for most of you, at least for me, it's a funny word. Like, who wants to be tolerated?
Wants to be tolerated? Okay, yeah, all right. And?
Right. In a sense, you're saying these people are so different from us. We can tolerate them,
Well, didn't you already kind of classify people in that way by saying that there's a whole section of the population, the majority, that will soon not be the majority, and they don't know how to handle that because apparently, as I said earlier, they're effectively sore losers in the procreation game? Aren't you the guys that are saying that certain populations need extra help, need extra funding, need to be raised up because they obviously can't help themselves? So you'll put up with the kinds of people that you don't like in favor of the people that you do. Aren't you tolerating people right now?
I mean, how many of you, go on a date and someone say, it's a great date. I really could tolerate another date with you. It's like, I don't think so.
Oh, no, I've had that experience, sort of. I went out on a date. This was my second or third date with this girl. And in the middle, we were at a sushi restaurant. We're having sushi. We're having an okay time. It was great. And then we started talking about our childhoods a little bit. And in the course of it, she talked about being picked on when she was a kid. And then she told me about my white privilege. And I was stunned. This is just before I started doing my YouTube channel, if I recall. And I was sitting there going like, excuse me? Because I think it was one of the first times I'd heard someone say that in my presence in real life, like something that wasn't just on the internet or on Tumblr or something at that point in time. This is a long time ago now. And I was like, explain that to me again. And she gives me this smug smile. It was like everything that had been built up to this point over the couple of dates we'd been on just instantly vanished. She gave me this smug smile and says, well, you have white privilege. Your life's not that hard. And I looked at her and I said, okay, so, and I it was one of those moments where I'd heard about this stuff before and I'd thought about it. And so it was one of those rare instances where I already had a ready answer to this, which is really bizarre and rare. I looked at her and said, okay, so wait, any accomplishment I have in life, either in the past or in the future, you think isn't as much of an accomplishment because I'm white. And any hardship I've either experienced or will experience in life isn't really that bad because I'm white. So anything I do, anything I tell you about, good, bad, or otherwise going forward, you're going to devalue because of my skin color. And if you can believe it, the date ended there. So, if she actually thought that by telling me that, and then we were going to continue on, she would have to tolerate me. No, so I'll agree. That the sense of being tolerated, being assessed as good, bad, or indifferent on the basis of something I can't control, and yet someone's still willing to have a relationship with me in spite of it. Yeah, that's an uncomfortable situation. You want to go back and talk about how you assess different people on the basis of their skin color again?
So othering is basically when you don't see someone else's full humanity.
Yeah. Do you want to go back and assess people on aesthetics again?
When you don't see someone else's full dignity.
Uh-huh.
When you see someone as lesser than.
Uh-huh.
And it even goes beyond that. Sometimes we see not only as people as lesser than, but we also see them as a threat.
Yeah. Do you want to you want to go back in time in your own presentation by about 10 minutes? Maybe a little bit? Okay.
And it can be explicit or it can be implicit.
Mm-hmm.
When we see another human being, nature thought it would be kind of cool to recognize each other. So when we see another human being, there's this part of the brain that lights up. This at an unconscious level, just saying, hey, fellow species, when
unless you hit the uncanny valley and then you're like, is that CGI?
we deeply other people, that part of the brain does not light up. Instead, the part that does light up is this part associated with insects, with disease, with disgust.
Wait. I missed something there. I blanked for a second. While I'm blanking for a second, over on the chat. Thank you, Derek LaRue, so much. As always, for your generosity and support. Hope you're having a good day. A Labor Day if you have it off, or if you don't, I hope you're having a good Monday. And hope you find the show interesting, informative, or something. Let's see. Assassin the Gray, you at least made her walk home, right? Well, if you know anything about me, I don't drive, so it was a very awkward ride home that night. Very awkward ride home that night. She was not a happy camper, and truth be told, after that interaction, I didn't really care. Not to be too cold-hearted, but yeah, no, I have some idea, both from being picked on as a kid and certainly in that situation of being reduced down to something that has no say in what kind of person I am and being held to account for it. So yeah, I have some idea. But I mean, obviously that can't really be true because I'm white. That never happens to white people.
Fellow species, when we deeply other people, that part of the brain does not light up.
When we deeply other people, that part of the brain doesn't light up. So if I see a human being, regardless of what they look like, but I can recognize them as a human being, instinctively, one part of my brain lights up. But if I have consciously, subconsciously, reflexively, or otherwise decided to other a particular type of human being, I no longer recognize them as a human being. I see them as an insect. Is that? And I don't know. I'm restating it. I don't know if that's true. I'm not a neurologist. I haven't done any studies. I haven't read any papers. So maybe that's true.
Instead, the part that does light up is this part associated with insects, with disease, with disgust. So when we deeply other someone, we actually see them not as a human being, as an unconscious level.
Wait, when we other someone, like an individual? Okay, because I'll say that if I saw the worst person I'd ever met in my life coming down the street, you're right, knowing something about them as a person, I would probably feel a lot different than if I just saw a person without any kind of context. But are you talking about something as surface level as if I see someone with a particular skin color and I'm a racist, I won't see them as human instantaneously? My brain won't light up at all in that. I won't recognize them as human? Is that? Okay, and what is all this supposed to say, this neurological analysis?
So belonging is acknowledging and practicing that we are profoundly interconnected.
Belonging is acknowledging and practicing that we are profoundly interconnected. That's what belonging is. Okay, so if I'm getting this right, belonging is setting aside all considerations, all assessments of other people, and seeing everybody as human. And again, I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. I'm trying to understand this, which isn't that difficult to do because unless I'm delusional, even if I see someone I loathe, I think I can tell that they're human. Am I supposed to ignore elements about an individual in this makeup? Like, I don't know. It sounds a bit too high-minded, kumbaya, utopian to me. But I don't know how this is supposed to be applied in the workplace as far as DEI. Because if what he's saying is true, then why are we delineating people on the basis of race? Why? Why did he earlier split people up amongst an economic level on the basis of race. If he truly wants everyone to see everyone else as human first, then why is he focused on race?
Profoundly interconnected.
Uh-huh.
And belonging takes us beyond inclusion. Because inclusion, many of you have, started new jobs, and you're included.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I'm not even sure I know you know what it means at this point, because anyway, before I get to that, Assassin of the Gray, thank you so much. Quote, when I am weaker than you, I ask you for freedom because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is according to my principles, unquote. Frank Herbert, Dune. Yes. Is someone looking for equality here, or just looking for whatever satisfies their own self-interest, their own self-centeredness, etc.? Right. Everyone else, you're all doing belonging wrong. You're not seeing each other as human. You're not seeing each other as interconnected. Now, let me tell you about my program where I favor certain people on the basis of their race, regardless of their economic situation. And I mean, we've listened to the same people now say completely opposing things at the same time. And again, this is Google. This is the big minds at Google who are going to be setting the standards for themselves and conceivably collaterally for other businesses that they work with. Because there's this expectation from really big companies that the companies that they work with will follow along with their philosophy. So we're purportedly, ostensibly, hearing how Google is going to be treating themselves and others going forward through this thinking. But yes, belonging and inclusion. When you come to work, you're included. Well, I hope so, because otherwise they're not going to get a whole heck of a lot out of me when I do my job. I'm getting a paycheck. Yes. What more am I supposed to expect?
Well, you're a guest. And often...
No. If I come to work, I'm not a guest. I'm an employee. I'm being paid to fulfill a function. I filled out some forms. I'm not a guest. What are you talking about? A guest? I mean, in the sense that, sure, my employment is not guaranteed for life. I suppose I could be asked to leave at any time. But even if I was feeling a sense of belonging, that wouldn't change my status as a employee, temporary or otherwise. A guest.
Starting new jobs, and you're included.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, you're a guest. And oftentimes when you start a new job, you're on probation.
Yeah.
You're a guest. We're going to see if we like you.
Yeah. What, should that not be the case?
We're going to see if you're okay. And if we do, maybe you'll be asked to be part of the team. If not, we'll ask you to leave.
Yes, that's how it works. You're not owed a job just for showing up. You go through the interview process, you train, and either you work out or you don't. Okay, well, what do you recommend in the alternative then?
You're on probation, not the company or not your boss.
You're right, because they're paying me. So okay. So this sounds like a very Gen Z mindset. You guys should be grateful that I'm even showing up today. Are you worthy of my attendance at this job? You need to prove to me every day that you have earned my labor. Is that it?
And it's like, this is the way we do things here.
Yeah.
I compare it to going to someone else's dinner party.
Whoa. Okay. For those of you listening at home, all of a sudden now behind them on a screen is a title card. And for the first time in a 46-minute presentation at nearly the 30-minute mark, the first mention of the phrase targeted universalism with a definition. Here we go. A framework that involves setting universal goals for all groups and using targeted processes to achieve those goals. The strategies developed to achieve the goals are based on how different groups are situated within structures, culture, and across geographies. It's, again, like I said yesterday, take any ideology and replace it with universalism. So Catholicism, feminism, Jainism, capitalism. Isn't that just missionary work? Isn't that just evangelizing to other people? Or am I misinterpreting this? Setting universal goals for all groups and using targeted processes to achieve those goals. Okay, so if I think that by chanting at the ocean's edge for the resurrection of Cthulhu on the full moon every month is going to bring about the end of the world with great Cthulhu rising up to, cleanse the planet. If that's my universal goal for all groups and I want to target the process to achieve that goal, well, I have to recruit more cultists and convince them that this is what needs to happen. Again, if I'm completely off base and I'm being sincere, somebody please correct me in the chat or in the comments later on if you happen to see this. But all right, what is the difference between targeted universalism and religious missionary work?
Or someone else's party, and they pick the food, they pick the music, they pick the other guests. You're welcome to come, but you're a guest.
Yeah, it's somebody else's party. And you can choose to attend if you want to. And
as a guest, you can be asked to leave.
Yes. You're going to someone else's house. You're going to someone else's function. So, okay. So again, is the alternative philosophy here, I've been invited, so now I'm in charge?
So inclusion is more like being a guest.
So when they say diversity, equity, and inclusion, they mean variety, equal outcome, and temporary attendance?
You're joining somebody's thing that you had maybe no hand in making. Give you one concrete example.
A concrete example? Oh boy.
In the 1970s, when women came into the workplace in large numbers, many of the workplaces had pornographic pictures lining the wall.
Whoa, wait. What is an auto mechanic shop or something? Okay, so lining the walls at most workplaces in the 1970s were pornographic pictures. What kind of workplaces are you? Yeah, Advocatus auto repair shop. Exactly. Like, wait, were they attending a factory? Was this like a boxing ring? Like, what are you talking about?
And the women were saying, oh.
Yeah, it's like, so how was your day at work today, dear? Well, I went to the accountant's firm and there was just Playboy centerfolds on every wall. What? That's amazing. Can I get a job there? Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? The walls were coated with pornography.
And the guy said, this is the way we do things. You're a rookie here. Don't come making problems. We've done like this for 30, 40, 50 years. This is who we are.
Was it the men's locker room at the auto plant? Like, what are you talking about?
That case actually went all the way to the Supreme Court.
That case. Oh, okay.
And that's when the idea of a hostile work environment came out.
Okay, well, okay, I'm not going to argue that, yes, the law regarding workplaces and appropriateness and everything else have changed mightily over the years. But to say that every workplace had their walls coated in pornography, now, if you want to cite a specific case as an example, okay. But making a glittering generalization like that is just ridiculous.
But many of the men, although some of the men objected too, didn't see what was wrong with the environment. This is just the way we do things.
Uh-huh. Okay. So if I show up to work and I'm peppered with questions about, oh, I don't know, my personal life, or how I should be referred to, or why aren't you joining this ERG, or maybe the employer is valuing other employees on the basis of their skin color. Do you think maybe there's something that feels like a hostile work environment towards certain people? I mean, what are you getting at here?
So we're inviting women in, but come in and shut up. Inclusion is saying, come in and shut up.
Inclusion is saying, come in and shut. Well, okay, well, the DEI crowd has had it in a really weird space then for the last 7 years. Come in and shut up. That's what inclusion means? Boy, oh boy. Man, I'll tell you what, that is the first time I've ever had inclusion described to me in that way.
Belonging is saying, co-create.
Oh.
You're not joining something that's just there. You're contributing to something that's going to be next.
Belonging is co-create. Okay, so after every other instance of him talking about belonging, I thought belonging was acknowledging someone else's humanity. Now belonging is co-creation, collaboration. Inclusion is welcome, now shush. Inclusion is you're a guest. Belonging is co-creation, also acknowledging someone's human, also interconnectedness. Okay.
You want every part of you. Doesn't mean you get to make it over all by yourself.
Why not? Why not? I can't just be a guest, right? I'm showing up to somebody else's party, but I'm being treated like a guest. I shouldn't be just treated like a guest. I showed up. I'm deigning to give you my time. Are you worthy of my time?
But you get to co-create it with the others. So the core of belonging is your full participation in your co-creation.
The core of belonging is my participation and co-creation. Also acknowledging the humanity in others, also interconnectedness. Okay.
And in that sense, it's inclusion 2.0.
Wait. Inclusion is just being considered as a guest, but inclusion 2.0 is now belonging.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
So, inclusion is just being treated as a guest. Inclusion is welcome, now shut up. But now we want inclusion 2.0, and inclusion 2.0 is really belonging. And what belonging is interconnectedness, acknowledging everyone's humanity, but also co-creating and having a say in what happens. Okay. All right. Well, I cannot argue with logic like that.
That's amazing.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. That was amazing. I am amazed. My mind is a maze, and I cannot find my way out.
When you were talking about that, it made me think about this idea, this notion of bridging, and like, how do you bridge from othering to belonging?
How do you bridge from othering to belonging? You mean inclusion 2.0?
Like, what does that look like?
You're asking him for specifics? Okay.
Well, bridging is a very important concept. So there are two concepts that really support belonging. One is bridging, and the other one is called targeted universalism.
Oh, whoa. Okay, wait. We're getting into the deep stuff here. Let me back up a little bit.
Bridging is a very important concept.
Bridging is a very important concept. So important that I don't believe we've heard it up to this point, but okay.
So there are two concepts that really support belonging.
There are two concepts that support belonging. And remember, belonging is just inclusion 2.0 of recognizing humanity, interconnectedness, and co-collaboration.
One is bridging, and the other one is called targeted universalism. And bridging, as the name suggests, is basically saying we are different in some important way, even though those differences may be entirely social. That is, there's no inherent difference.
There's no inherent difference. Oh, okay. So you're not talking about skin color, which is an inherent difference. It just doesn't say anything about a person. But you're willing to split people up on that basis, regardless of their economic situation, for who deserves monetary support and who doesn't, that kind of thing. Okay, right.
I'm probably taller than most of you. And that's irrelevant.
You're right. It is irrelevant. You know what else is irrelevant about somebody's physical makeup in determining what kind of person they are? Do you want to think of a couple options?
We don't organize around, all right, the tall people are going to live on this street, the short people are going to live on that street.
Yeah. What kind of world are you looking to make again?
We do that around Jews going to live in this neighborhood, non-Jews going to live in this neighborhood. We do
that? We do
the around Black people are going to live in this neighborhood, white people are going to live in this. So
really? Okay, so in this day and age, under law, we have segregated cities and communities. It's not that there are people that gather together to live amongst people that they share a common belief system or culture or something, and that just ends up propagating upon itself over time. There's no possibility of that. Okay, so you want to split up communities and integrate everybody. Okay. How do you intend to do that?
Well, there's different types of othering. We other not just at an individual level, but at a group level.
And would you put, I mean, you brought up religion. Do you want to talk about the inherent contradiction of religion and not othering people? It's kind of unavoidable, unfortunately. Have you read any of the Abrahamic texts and what they talk about when it comes to people who do not believe? What are you going to do about that situation?
When we say that if you want to come to this country and you're from a Muslim country, you can't come.
That's not what happened. That is literally not what happened. Oh my, okay. We're off in La La Land again. Yeah. You remember when Saudi Arabia, remember when this country banned anyone coming from Saudi Arabia because they might have a particular religious persuasion? Remember when that happened? Because obviously it was the religion that was being banned from coming to this country. Oh yeah, that's right. That didn't happen. Remember when Iraq was banned from travel? Yeah, that happened. Oh, and then they were taken off of the list. There were some other countries in there that weren't inherently quote unquote Muslim, but it was, okay.
Or when we say in East Africa, if you're gay, you're subject to execution.
Interesting timing of bringing up that example, because CNN just got raked over the coals for getting all worked up over a couple of instances of people being put to execution under that purported law, except the crimes they committed were heinous. Now, that's not to say that the law against, you shall be executed if you happen to be gay, that's not to say that's good or something. No. But interesting that you bring up that subject now, given recent events.
We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about groups.
Demographics.
And so when we put groups at odds,
demographics,
we create a cleavage between them.
Yeah, when we put groups, we put demographics at odds. What did you just do in your own presentation? Are you even listening to yourself? Do you even care?
We're saying this group does not belong, or this group's difference is problematic.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that exactly what you've done in this talk? When you talked about the majority, when you talked about, oh, what do we do about poor whites? And on and on and on.
So bridging is saying, how do we build the bridge to that other group?
How about do away with race as a value factor? How about focusing on experience rather than race? How about economic standing? Poverty knows no race. How about focusing on that? But you don't want to focus on that. You want to split people up thereafter on what they look like. You already told us this. You're not even practicing what you're preaching.
And there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff on our website. I'm literally writing a book now on bridging. But the beginning of it is to be willing to see the other person as a full human being and hear their story. Really listen to their suffering.
You already know their story. You already know their suffering isn't really suffering because you've already... Anyway, I know. I'm a broken record. It's just so patently ridiculous being talked down to on the one hand and then being told that they're wise and enlightened on the other with totally contradictory notions.
That word compassion, which the heart of bridging means to suffer with.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't mean I agree with you. It doesn't even mean necessarily I like you. But am I willing to really listen and see your humanity?
Okay, so I can hate somebody, but I'm not othering them. As long as I recognize their humanity, I'm bridging. So the part of my brain that sees someone as a person is still going to be in effect. I'm not going to see them as an insect if I hate them. As long as I'm listening, I'm bridging. Okay.
And the research on this is actually phenomenal.
Oh.
That when you actually deeply listen, the South African word is sabawanu, which means I see you.
Okay. That sounds like a Daredevil kind of thing, since he can't see. He can, anyway.
I see you.
Okay. Seeing you is irrelevant if I'm listening to you. I'm listening to your ideas. I'm listening to your words. I'm listening to the notions you're putting forth. If this was a podcast, if I could not see anything about you, I would still have your ideas and your intentions to evaluate you as a person. I suppose, thankfully, you all took the time at the beginning to describe yourselves physically to people who can't see, but that is irrelevant, as you just said. Your height, it's irrelevant. If we divvied people up in different cities on the basis of their height, would it make any more sense than what you're talking about? No. Would you approve of it? No. Then why do you promote it in who is valued and who isn't? And I'm listening very carefully to what you're saying, which is why it is so infuriatingly frustrating to hear you say one thing and then speak as though you didn't say the thing you said just minutes ago.
And we need to be seen.
And
when we see each other, something happens in both directions.
Okay.
So learning to create a space, stories, practices, where we really see each other, that's the heart of bridging. And the power of that is hard to understate. One quick example.
I love examples.
Nelson Mandela, when he was in prison, he asked the prison guards to teach him the words of his captors.
The words of his captors?
Afrikaner.
Oh, the language. Okay.
In Soweto, the students were protesting because they were having to learn instructions in Afrikaner. It's like, we don't want to learn that language. Nelson Mandela was being imprisoned by the Afrikaners and saying, I want to see your sacred symbols. And so that movie, when he comes out and goes to the rugby match, he's again, it's like, I see you. And it's controversial.
So wait, the people that imprisoned Nelson Mandela took the time to teach him a language? Okay. Seems like an awfully benevolent thing to do.
And most of us aren't Nelson Mandela, but can we actually pause and see each other?
Wait. So, and this is me not knowing, obviously, the details of what happened to Nelson Mandela in this instance. So, were they trying to eliminate native languages by bringing everybody over into one language? Was that it? Okay, that kind of actual colonialism and so on. Okay, so Nelson Mandela in prison, his captors, he wanted to learn the language that was being forced upon the students, so he could then communicate with those that were in the country that he didn't agree with, and therefore he listened to them and he saw them as people, and then he used that to bridge the gap. Okay, I suppose. I mean, obviously it had some net positive effect for Nelson Mandela in South Africa, I guess. Politically speaking, PR-wise, okay. And so what does this have to do with DEI in the workplace? Okay, this is what I want. I want our speaker to bridge the gap between this example and how it would function in an understandable way in the workplace as relates to DEI.
Can we actually pause and be curious about each other?
That's what I'm doing right now. I was curious about what this meant when I saw the title, and I'm really trying to understand. But so far, I don't understand much, except that everybody likes talking a lot, but not saying anything definitive.
Because the other thing, when you other someone, you're not curious about them. They become flat.
Uh-huh. Oh, you mean like you just dismiss somebody on the basis of their demographic adherence? Right? I mean, you already told us that you know how a certain demographic in this country thinks about the shift in populations. You already told us. You know what they think. You know how they're reacting. You know that they are just spoil sports about losing the procreation game. You already told us that. We don't need to think that hard about what certain demographics think or feel or their life experience. You already know. You guys have already told us who deserves attention and who doesn't. Right?
They become just the old black man, or just a gay man, or just a Latino, or just a woman.
I noticed you didn't include anybody else in that list. Okay.
And none of us are any of those just.
They're not? Are you sure about that? I've got somebody I can introduce you to. It's yourself from about 20 minutes ago.
We're multiple beings.
Oh,
and so
multiple.
Bridging requires a curiosity and a willingness to really see each other.
Mm-hmm. So you've said the exact same thing again and again and again and again, and we still haven't gotten anywhere. Okay. Can we have the other guy talk now?
John, there's a real need to solve for groups that are situated apart from the majority. And I think,
groups that are situated apart from the majority. Are you listening to yourself?
Like that's what you're taking us deeper into. And by doing that, it helps us to start taking a look into the future. We're able to use what we've learned. We're able to use data, research, and the common humanity that you talked about to really build this path forward. And so,
yeah, the common humanity by dismissing an entire population because they're quote unquote the majority, as though that says something. What is that supposed to say? What is that supposed to do?
As we think more about like the future of DEI, something that's really excited me about this framework, and you've really been giving us these concepts along the way.
Oh yeah, he's been giving concepts, all right. They've been absolute gibberish, but yeah, he's been giving us concepts.
Is the framework called Targeted Universalism.
Yes. Okay. Finally, 36 minutes into a 46-minute presentation, the title of the presentation finally comes to the fore. Tell us about targeted universalism.
Which is that idea of looking at universal goals that are common to humanity versus like a specific group. And so can you dive into
Sure.
this a little bit deeper?
Goals that are common to humanity? So Maslow's triangle?
Yes, thanks for the question.
Does Juan get to talk again? You know, there's somebody else on the stage there. Maybe he's got something to say.
So if you think about equity, the way it's practiced in most places, it says there's a favorite group that has a lot or has too much, and there's a marginal group. And the goal is to close the disparity between those groups.
And what if the disparity is based on talent and merit? No. Equity is about equality of outcome, right? Okay. So, all right. And how is that gap closed?
So the baseline is what the favorite group has.
The favored group.
And the goal then is to close the gap between the groups.
Yes, you said it twice now.
And that seems reasonable until you dig into it more deeply. What if what the favorite group has is not all that good?
Yeah.
What if what the favored group has is not all that good? What do you mean?
Think about suicide. The suicide rate between black men and white men have been declining, not because black men are killing themselves less often, but because white men are killing themselves more often.
Whoa, wait. I have quite literally had my mind thrown off track. I don't even know what to say to this.
So do we want to, should we be happy if we kill ourselves at the same rate as white men?
What? Where is this coming from? Okay, I don't think anybody's looking for equity in suicide rate. Okay,
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
And here's a question. Here's a question. Why, once again, when you're talking about disparity in groups, you have to make it about race? There's a common denominator that you can go to there that might be a more interesting question. Men. Just like before, when you talked about the poor, and then you had to split it up along racial lines. How about just talking about experience of being? What is going on with men as a demographic? Why are you evaluating this disparity on the basis of race? What do you think is the difference there? What do you assume to know to be the difference? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? What does this have to do with anything? I need a bridging. I need a bridging right now between this example and whatever the heck we're talking about.
And so what is the goal? If the goal is not to have what white people have, what is the goal?
What white people have? Wait. Okay, so hey there, mister. Sure a nice level of suicide you got going on there. Be a shame if somebody took it from you. Like, what the hell are we talking about?
Also, when you say, let's close the gap, it creates a zero-sum competition.
What?
We say, let's take from one group and give to the other group.
That what? How many times can I say what? Can I say what in this as many times as they've said impact? I feel like I'm in that scene in Pulp Fiction, and that, you know, Julius is going to rain down vengeance and fury upon me if I open my mouth again.
Well, if you're the group that's being taken from, you don't feel good about yourself. And the group
Taken
who
from?
feels like they should have more, they feel like they should have more. So again, this is what we're dealing with right now.
Nothing you have said has made any sense. Nothing. What are you talking about?
So what does targeted universalism do with
I don't know. What does targeted universalism do to equalize the suicide rate?
that? It says the goal is universal. It's not tied to any particular group. We can say all groups should flourish. And then we say, but groups are situated differently. So how do we get groups who are situated differently to that universal goal?
I don't know. You're going to need to give an actual concrete example of what you're talking about. Because I don't even know where we're at this point. Thank you, Keeverdam, for the nope super sticker. Appreciate it. Yeah, I am so lost right now as to where we are going, what is going on.
It's targeted strategy.
Yes.
Strategies are targeted based on how we're situated.
Okay, give us an example.
Concrete example.
Okay, all right, concrete example, because your concrete examples before were so useful.
Let's say we want to get from the second floor to the third floor.
We want to give from the second floor to the third floor. Okay, give what? What's the disparity?
We're going to build an escalator.
We're going to build an escalator.
The goal is clear. We're going to go from floor 2 to floor 3.
Okay.
Here comes someone in a wheelchair. We can now, a simple concept of equality, say, let's treat everybody the same. I'm ambulatory. I get on the escalator. This person has to figure out how to get on the escalator too.
That's not. No. That's. Okay. So we also have elevators. Is that it?
Well, this doesn't seem quite right.
Uh-huh.
We could say we need an elevator for this person. Then some
Uh-huh.
people will say this person is getting special treatment. Why does she get an elevator?
Because she literally cannot function without that. It's a factor of experience and condition. It's a physical disability that is not their fault, but does limit their ability to move. Someone's skin color isn't a physical disability now, is it? Or is it?
The treatment is not special. The treatment is targeted based on how we are situated.
All right. Up to this point, you guys have mentioned nothing about physical disability. You've only talked about race, gender, and orientation. Okay. So what does someone in a particular racial, gender, or orientation demographic absolutely need on the basis of what they are in this context? As far as DEI is concerned, what do you know about someone's condition based on their skin color, their gender, or their orientation that would lead you to targeted universalism? Because you haven't brought up a physical disability until now, all of a sudden.
And so targeted universalism says we want to get everybody, including the white men. We want to get everybody to stop killing themselves, every group.
including the white man. Wait a second, that means I'm just a guest. Including the there's a special consideration including. I mean, we don't want the white men to kill themselves too. I mean, our first concern is over here, but we don't want the white men also. I need a moment. Excuse me. I just. Okay. Okay. Oh, Nelly. Okay. This is just this thinking is just so deep. Okay.
Including white men, including white women, including black men, including black women.
No. You can't. No. Okay. What happened to seeing everyone as human? We're not even 5 minutes out in the presentation from you excoriating the globe on not othering people, on to see common humanity, to look beyond and see a person. And yet here we are again. Where is the common humanity when you have to stop yourself every 2 seconds to specify specific racial or gender demographics in your considerations? Am I just completely off base here? No.
Everybody, but we are situated differently.
You know this for a fact. Okay, how am I situated differently from you? And is it based on my skin color?
So we're not going to treat everybody the same.
We're not going to treat everybody the same. Okay, well, given the demographics you've just talked about, how would you treat a suicidal white man versus a suicidal black man? What do you know about these two individuals without talking to them ahead of time that you know that one needs to be treated differently than another?
We're going to treat people consistent with how they're situated to get them to that universal.
How? Describe to me the situation, the base level universal situation of the demographics you have just listed.
So that's targeted universalism. And we also refer to it sometimes as equity 2.0.
Wait, okay, all right. So belonging 2.0 is inclusion 2.0 is belonging, and equity 2.0 is targeted universalism. I thought we were supposed to get to D.E.I. 2.0 targeted. Okay.
Because we think it's what equity was trying to get to, but it got lost in terms of this fight between what was considered a dominant group and a marginal group.
Yeah, the dominant group and the marginal group. That's old thinking. That's everything else. Tell us again about the majority group that is all jealous and scared of the minority groups becoming more populous in the country again. Oh, but that's old thinking. Now it's equity 2.0 where...
Juan, as you think about this concept.
Oh, is Juan still here? Oh, I forgot he was here. I thought this was a 2-car parade.
When you think about like the larger we and approaching DEI from this lens and this framework, what are some of the ways that you've seen this brought into practice at Google? And what do you think is important about how it's factored over the next 5+ years?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is very much in line with the work we need to do.
Is it? That is a frightening thought.
At Google, because just think about Google. We have 15 products that have over 500 million users each.
15 products, 500 million users each. Wow, okay.
We have 6 products that have 2 billion users each. So when you think about the universe, that's who we're solving for, right? And our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, universally. So it's in our mission, actually.
What does that have to do with anything he was talking about? How is that any different than what Google was doing at the... You know why Google is just a search bar? because that's all it's supposed to be. It has one function, one primary function. It always has had one primary function, not a whole lot of other bells and whistles and everything attached to it at the beginning. The actual Google search form is just a search bar. That's it. Can't get more universal than that. Wow. Do you mean to tell you've been with Google for 5 years? Yeah, well, the principle of universal access has kind of been there since almost the beginning. So tell me something I don't know.
And, we've been on a journey, I would say, for the last 5 years.
No, you've been on a journey for the last 5 years because you've been there only 5 years. Google's been around for a while.
To embed this thinking of actually thinking about every user, which means you have to think about it differently.
What?
Because, like you just explained it so brilliantly.
He explained what so brilliantly? What? Is this just a kiss up session? Could you tell us, could you answer the question you were asked? How are you implementing whatever the heck you guys are talking about at Google in your policies and procedures?
So you actually put in a bottle, like what we try and do with our products too.
Really? He put in a bottle. Okay. All right. Okay.
Make them useful for everyone.
Uh-huh.
Now, it's a journey. Like I wouldn't say we're perfect at this, but
yes, we have a long way to go.
We, products like the skin tone on the Pixel camera, which captures different skin tones with accuracy. Whereas
the skin tones on the Pixel cameras, which capture with accuracy. It's a camera.
Before the camera.
Yeah, well, what if I'm taking a picture of a plant? Does it capture the petal tones with accuracy? The skin tones with accuracy. Okay.
And capture all skin tones with the same accuracy. You can do the math on which skin tones were not properly captured.
What? What am I? You can do the math on what skin tones were not properly captured. What? Wait. So the Google Pixel cameras are racist? Is that what I'm hearing? What?
Or, having the ability on search or on maps or on shopping to identify communities, create opportunity like Black-owned businesses or LGBT-friendly and safe businesses and places. Sometimes it's about safety for some of our communities.
How do you determine what is an LGBTQ plus friendly space? How do you measure that? I mean, what is there? I'm asking sincerely because I don't know. How does Google evaluate a business as to its LGBTQ plus safety score? Black-owned businesses. So Google is marking businesses on the basis of the race of the owners now? How does that conversation go? You guys spend so much time talking about othering. You spend so much time talking about belonging and inclusion. You talk so much about interconnectedness and making people feel welcome. And then you go and you evaluate whether or not a business should be given attention on the race of its owner. Impact. That's all. I'll just say impact. Impact.
Or this is my favorite example.
Oh, your favorite example. Okay, what's your favorite example?
It's also a cloud product. On Meet, you now have live captions. So if you have a hearing disability, we could literally level the playing field, and you could operate as if you didn't have it.
Oh my gosh, you mean there's a feature on your product that accommodates someone who literally cannot do something? Oh, what is it? Gosh, that's almost like a limitation in their life that you are helping to mitigate. Wow, that's great. And I'm not being sarcastic. That's great. Why are you bringing that up in the same sentence with race and orientation? How do you see these things connected one to another? A physical disability alongside skin color and sexual orientation. Oh, okay. You're the one making the speech. I don't know what else to say.
Because we have that. It's just the power of our products and the power of technology, and that we collectively in this room, the impact we can have.
Impact.
If we think about this and embed it into how we think about the products from the design stage.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you do embed racial segregation and preference and orientation paranoia in your products, yeah, you can do that. You are doing that. That's great.
All the way through. So I view it as a big opportunity, actually.
Okay.
What you just articulated.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely. Sure. I mean, this has been such an incredible conversation. I know
this has not been a conversation. This has been a series of soliloquies, most of which has been absolute nonsense pablum poppycock. Conversation, back and forth, debating ideas. No, everybody is amazed at anything anybody else says. There's no exchange here. There's no interconnectedness, no collaboration. It's just, I'm going to say some things. I'm going to have absolutely no pushback or question as to what I'm saying. Everybody's going to just glad hand one another. And then we're going to, what, be impressed that we said words? I guess this is Google.
If I'd been in the audience, I would have been taking feverish notes. And so as we really end our time together, I want to close by asking each of you to share what are some key practices, tips, actions that our audience can take with them back to their businesses, their institutions, their homes, as well as their communities to really help drive towards this idea of DEI 2.0. And
okay, good. Yes. What can I do? I mean, I work for a company. I'm not particularly a decision maker in the company, but I've been there a while. I've got some tenure. Okay, if I want to take some of these policies and practices and improve my company, what can I do?
Juan, let's start with you.
Yeah, let's give Juan a bit more airtime because you decidedly ignored him throughout this.
So I'm going to borrow from my Google colleagues, given that this is an audience of mostly engineers, and thinking about what we just talked about thinking about everyone for when you build your products.
When you're thinking about everyone when you build your products, but since this is mostly an audience of engineers, okay.
And this is Anne Baptiste, who leads our product inclusion work at Google.
So wait, you don't have any ideas of your own? You have to, okay.
She loves to say, if you don't intentionally include, you will unintentionally exclude.
If you don't intentionally include, you will unintentionally exclude. Okay. Who am I? Okay.
Meaning you may have the best intentions and think that you are building for everyone, but unless you start at the very beginning and have the different points of view and voices at the very beginning of the design process, you're actually excluding.
You cannot please all of the people all of the time. You cannot please all of the people all of the time. Attempt to do so. and see what happens.
You're actually othering, like what John said. And so that's one takeaway for engineers in particular, as you build products, to be intentional about including.
That's your big piece of advice. That's it. Okay.
John, what's something you'd like to leave the audience?
Well, a couple of things very quickly.
Oh man, I tell you what, if anything's going to be remaining to me after this, it's going to be things that our speaker here has said, because man, I just can't get past them. Equity in self-destruction. I'm just waiting for the day.
We hold these truths to be self-evident,
Oh, jeez.
that all people are created equal. So
All men are created equal.
why aren't they equal?
Why aren't they created equal? I don't know. Why? Why aren't they?
If we're created equal, why aren't they?
I don't know. Why is that? Why are people divvied up on things that say nothing about who they are? Oh, that's because different people operate differently, right? Like, I, over the course of my lifetime, was told, and I tested and all this other stuff, I was told that I have a more advanced facility with language, words, and communication than other people, right? On average, I exceed in that. When it comes to math, I'm an absolute yutz. So why? Why am I better with words than I am with numbers? Why do I possess certain skills in one area that I seemingly, on a balanced basis, lack in another? I don't know why.
One way of reading what the Declaration of Independence, which really is borrowing from Aristotle, is that when you see statistical enduring inequality, is to suggest probably that something's wrong.
What?
If we believe that people are inherently equal, then consistently having women not in the workplace shouldn't be, well, they have to explain, that they deserve to be in the workplace. It's like,
what are you What are you talking about? Women are not in the workplace. Are you talking about on average as compared to men? Oh, golly. Okay, if you're just talking about percentages, could there be, I don't know, could there be something about being alive in a relatively, I'll say, just to be on the safe side, free country that might put you in the workplace at a lesser rate than someone else? Could it be choice? Is there any consideration for choice? Or are we just talking about the God of the gaps theory of statistical analysis? There's a disparity, therefore sexism. Is that it?
maybe there's something going on.
Maybe there is. Maybe there's not. Maybe somebody decided to stay home and raise the kids. I don't know.
If we start with the assumption that everybody's capable, every group, not just individuals, every group.
Demographic.
And then tell a story and make sure that many of those people and groups will get data, and then also talk to those groups that are excluded.
Okay. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm going to assume, because that we're making assumptions now, I'm going to assume he's talking about the rate of full-time employment between two demographics, males and females. And the rate of full-time employment between males and females, I'm going to assume, is probably higher on the male end than it is on the female end. Now, what conclusion could you draw from the disparity in those two percentages? Well, perhaps women are being literally and explicitly excluded from working. I mean, if that was the answer, that would explain it. Is it the answer? In this country, in this society, in this day and age, in the current year, is that the answer? Or could there be nuance to it? Could there be something else going on? Could there be multiple something else's going on? Well, I don't know, because we need to start from the assumption that something's wrong with this picture. We don't need to ask any questions or think about other possibilities or consider reality. No. There's obviously an ism somewhere in there, right? There's something wrong with this picture. And we're going to start from that. We're going to start from that assumption and proceed forward. Obviously, businesses are sexist. Obviously, every place where there's a man, there's a misogynist. I mean, I'm not doing anything different than what I'm being told to do here. I just must assume that, right?
To build a world where everyone belongs.
Oh, how profound. What was belonging again? What were the 4 or 5 definitions you gave us about belonging again?
Thank you both for sharing those. At Google, we want belonging to be felt everywhere, in our workplace, in our products, in our society. And we want this to be felt by everyone. But we recognize that, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And it means that we're not only trying to solve the problems of today, but we're trying to build a better foundation so that we don't have to keep solving the same problems tomorrow.
No. You guys are taking what was slowly becoming a foundation and chipping it apart and feeding into the cracks the same sins of the past. You are creating a racial, specifically, in the majority of this conversation, and gender class system. Now, these things have existed before. They've existed before in this country. And you guys are bringing it roaring back again. You've said it yourselves over and over and over again. You talk about common humanity and belonging, interconnectedness, collaboration, and then you stop yourselves and start talking about race. Start talking about gender, orientation. What kind of people own businesses is important to you? What kind of spaces are friendly to specific demographics is important to you? Other demographics, well, we're unintentionally excluding them because we're intentionally including these people. No, you're not creating your foundation is built on sand. It is built on sand. That's it.
You can visit belonging.google.com to see the ways that we foster belonging for everyone across these areas.
Oh, well, maybe that'll be my Sunday stream this coming week. I'll look at belonging.google.com to find out what Google's doing to make everybody feel belonged.
As I said before, I am incredibly hopeful that the work that we've done and will continue to do will spark ideas on how you can impact your businesses, your institutions, your homes, as well as your communities.
Yeah.
It's truly been an incredible conversation with so much information for our audience to take with them.
Oh boy, it was a lot of information to munch through, I'll give you that.
I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with both of you. And
did you really speak with them?
I want to thank you for joining us today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. That is it. That is the end. That is the keynote speech on D.E.I. 2.0, Targeted Universalism, where we had to go halfway through the presentation before it was mentioned. And then when it was, it didn't make any sense. Oh, okay. Did we learn something? Well, I wanted to know what Google thinks the future of DEI looks like. I wanted to know what targeted universalism meant. And now I guess I have a better understanding. I can't say it is an understanding, but it is certainly a better understanding than when I came into it, since I never heard the phrase before. Before I wrap up, anybody else have anything else they'd like to add here? Let's see. Scribelight, for all their talk of inclusion, I noticed they did not include subtitles in this for the hearing impaired. It seems like a glaring oversight. There may be closed captioning on the original video. I don't know. There's a link to the originals in the description. I could not, if there were closed captions, I couldn't carry them over from the raw item. So I can't say one way or the other. I can't say. Let's see. Assassin of the Gray. Fun fact, if the majority white population of this country was as evil as repeatedly declared, these blowhards would be too terrified to speak. I guess. I don't know. It's amazing to me. But no, we're all scared. Anybody who's white, right? Anybody who's white is scared of demographic shift. We're all sore losers in the demographics game, according to our speakers, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. Roger Reynolds. No, you want that, otherwise you'd be out of a job. Well, that's the thing. It's like if you don't have a boogeyman to eradicate, where does the boogeyman extermination agent go? It just keeps recycling the same divisions, the same. I think the biggest takeaway from this for me is the complaint about and warning against othering people by people who are actively othering and working othering into their products. I guess that kind of wraps it up, doesn't it? Matt, you don't assume everyone is capable because they aren't. Capable in what? Right? I mean, I can't walk onto an NBA basketball court and be given a contract. Right? I am physically, skillfully, meritoriously incapable of competing at the same level as an NBA basketball star. Just not. It's not a judgment against me as a person unless you decide to say that only people who can play basketball well are worthy individuals or something. Right? Not, yeah, all men are created equal under law. I don't know where he was going with this. He wants to redefine everything, give something 17 definitions, not think about in the abstract, but yet talk with nothing but abstracts. Okay. Yvonne Solomon, if this were a TEDx stream, how many times would word salad be served? I think the entire square would be green by now. I really do. Just fueled entirely by our middle speaker. John, was it? Nearly everything he said turned into balderdash. It was amazing. And Juan was practically ignored for half of this talk. That was amazing as well. Peter, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. You've got to play to your strengths. Right. But simply because someone has a weakness in one area of life versus another does not dehumanize them, does not make them less worthy of consideration under law or as a human being. Right? Yeah, he's right about one thing. Seeing each other commonly as humans first and not rejecting someone, vilifying them, dismissing them because of some difference. I mean, you might not get along with someone. You might not have the same interests as someone. Does that mean that that person doesn't deserve common human respect? No. Not unless or until you find out that they are a terrible person and do terrible things to other people. And then at that point, yeah, might not feel the same way about them. But as a general rule, yeah, everybody's human. So why elevate and glorify elements that say nothing about a person's humanity and just their aesthetic? Anyway, I could repeat myself, but I already have several times, and I feel like I've been doing so for a long time. So I want to hear what you guys have to say, but since my voice is starting to fade, I'm going to have to ask you to do so in the comments after the video is posted. Let's see. Programming note. TED Excellence, as already mentioned, Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for education and fun. I call it masochism. I suppose. It depends. Check out last week's episode where we found out how gene splicing was going to cure climate change. Beyond that, everyone, I'm going to call it here. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this part 2. Again, let me know what you thought in the comments below if I missed your comment on the chat. Also, moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the fundraisers pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really, really do appreciate it. Everyone, I hope you have a good rest of your Monday. If you have it off, if you don't have it off, I also hope you have a good rest of your Monday and the rest of your work week ahead. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, I have a Discord. You didn't see that coming, did you? You thought I forgot. I didn't forget up until that moment. And then I remembered, which means I didn't forget. So I'm going to put the Discord link in the chat. If you'd like to join the Discord, click on the link. If you click on the link, you'll find yourself on the Say Hello channel. Say hello and also the secret word. What's today's secret word? Today's secret word is bridging. Bridge yourself between not being a member of the Discord into becoming a member of the Discord. And I also hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.